For this first exercise in the array chapter, we're going to demonstrate how to use the array as a way to keep track of the number of occurrences of a random number when we loop through a random number generator. You'll see what I mean once we develop the program. The first thing I'm going to do is create our random number generator. Then I'm going to create a variable to store a random number in. We'll call it num. I'm going to create a constant for my array, which is going to be 101. And I'm going to create the array. We'll call it numbers. It will store the occurrences of the numbers as we come across them. And here's where we begin that process. So we write a loop that starts at 1. We don't want to store anything in position 0 because the numbers we're generating are going to be 1 through 100. And then we'll write while I is less than size, plus I. And then in the loop, the first thing we do is generate a random number in the range of 1 to 100. And then use the number generated as the index into the array, and then increment the value stored there by 1. When we initialize numbers right here, the values that are stored in numbers are going to be all zeros because it's an int array. So every time we come across a number, so for example, let's say the first number generated is 50. We're going to index into the 50th index position and increment that value 0 by 1 to be 1. So that will keep track of the occurrence of the number 50 in the list of random numbers generated. Then if the next number is 22, then we're going to index in the 22nd position 22 and increment that value by 1, and so on and so forth. When we're finished, we can just write another loop. And of course I could have methods for this, but that's okay for this example. A standard loop through the array. Write out the current value of I plus a colon, and then the number of occurrences of that number in the array. So let's run it and see what we get. So looking at the bottom of the display, we'll see that 100 was generated twice, 98 once, 97 twice, and then we can scroll back through all the other numbers. 1 was not generated, 2 was generated once, 4 was generated once, 5 and 6 were both generated twice. I'm not going to display a list of the numbers generated. You can certainly do that in this program. Let's run it again, but that's just going to take away from what I'm trying to demonstrate. Here's another list. Let's do it again. And there you see another set of lists. This time we didn't begin generating numbers till number 4. There were no 1s, 2s, or 3s. But notice the randomness of these lists. Every time the occurrences change. This time 1, 2, and 3 were generated once, twice, and once respectively. So there's a fairly decent distribution of numbers over the range of 1 to 100. Now in the next exercise, we're actually going to take this idea and change from a numeric display to a histogram, where we're going to draw a very primitive bar chart of the number of occurrences using asterisks to represent. If there's 3 occurrences, then there'll be 3 asterisks. If there's 5 occurrences, there'll be 5 asterisks, and so on. And we're going to see how to do that in the next exercise.